morning, councillors, CEO, directors, ladies and gentlemen. Let's acknowledge the traditional custodians of this wonderful place we call home. In our valley, that's the Iwi people, and they represent a human occupation dating back about 60,000 years. So we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and those emerging. This council meeting is being streamed live, and for members of the public gallery today, I draw your attention to the top right-hand corner there that indicates that your being here is by participating in our meeting, you consent to your image and voice if you speak, being recorded and published in accordance with the council's standing orders. And welcome to our online audience as well. So, I declare the meeting open. Thank you very much, councillors. And our opening prayer today is to be delivered by Pastor Amanda Growler. Pastor Growler, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor Greg, esteemed councillors, CEO directors. Matthew 25 verses 35 to 40 gives us a beautiful glimpse in Jesus' servant leadership, and therefore perhaps the most beautiful blueprint for us who get to serve individuals and communities here in Mackay, right here and right now. So I take the following from the NIV, the context being that final glorious day when Jesus returns to make everything new and none of the existing plights of our community and the world exist. Imagine that day. But until then, we have a job to do. So I take the next from Matthew 25, verses 35 to 40 from the NIV. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you do for one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did for me. So I want to thank you for being Jesus' hand and feet in our community, not just for what you do, but for putting heart and soul into making Mackay, challenges and all, areas of improvement and all, one of the most livable cities in Queensland. Thank you so much. Let us pray. Holy Heavenly Father, we come before you with gratitude for the safety and protection you have provided us throughout the night and for bringing us together this morning. Almighty God, we humbly ask for your divine blessing upon Mayor Greg, as well as the council members entrusted with leading our community in every aspect of our lives, including work, rest, and recreation. Holy Spirit, we seek your guidance, wisdom, and support as we commence this meeting. Grant us the unity needed to engage in fruitful and meaningful discussion. Open our hearts to your leading, allowing us to grow closer as a collective and strengthen the bonds of community. May love and fairness define both our council and our community. Lord, our Redeemer, we beseech you to ignite spiritual revival within our city, starting from the depths of our own hearts. Additionally, we pray for economic revival with the emergence of innovative businesses that contribute to our local economy. May an exceptional work ethic permeate our population, leading to the prosperity of our beautiful city. May Mackay indeed shine as a beacon of light. We offer this prayer in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Pastor Matt. Thank you. Councillor says nobody absent on council business. Councillor Townsend has requested a leave of absence for today's council meeting. Would somebody like to move the leave of absence? Councillor Mann moves. Councillor Bowman seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Jones has requested a leave of absence to be granted for the council meeting on the 26th of July. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mann moves. Seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. In condolences, I'd like to start with the condolences with noting the tragic passing of Kerry Latta. Kerry died on Sunday night after a short 3-month battle with cancer, and it was both a shock, but he remained his positive, happy self almost right to the end. And in fact, it was only 3 weeks ago that he was here at the council to represent cane growers in terms of valuations and rate increases or potential rate increases. And so, he's a man who's had 15 years at the helm of the cane growers here in Mackay, and had 13 years in the Air Force before that. So he served on a number of our regional committees, and he will be a loss to our community. He was a fierce advocate for cane growers and for the sugar industry. And so we'd like to acknowledge his tragic passing, pass on our condolences to his family, and send our support to cane growers in particular. Further condolences? Councillor May, sorry.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'd like to do a condolence for Nick Canyon, who was a long-term resident of Serena Shire, lived down at Serena Beach, and he passed away at the late May. And unfortunately, because of our meeting cycle, it's quite some time since that occurred. But the reason that I would like to do a condolence is because that Nick Canyon served as a councillor on the Serena Shire Council from 1976 through to 1981. I also believe that his father may have been a councillor prior to that, so quite a long history in Serena. But if anybody knows Nick, they knew that he was a bit of a larrikin and a very hard-working member of our community. And he contributed through being an active member of APEX, and then went on to be a very active member of Lions as well. So he was forever, giving back to the community in which he loved very dearly. He also was part of the little theatre group that started in Serena many years ago. Him and his wife Patty were great contributors to that. And Nick also contributed to the Landcare organisation in Serena. He worked at the MEB in Serena and was in that role for many, many years. So we'd just like to pass on our condolences to his wife Patty.
Thanks, Councillor May. Further condolences? Okay. Thank you, councillors. Any conflicts of interest to declare for today's meeting? None. Let's move on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the 24th of May. And those have been included in your agenda today. Would somebody like to move that those minutes be confirmed? Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. There's no business arising out of those minutes as published today. No mayoral minutes. The consideration of committee reports and recommendations. The local disaster management group meeting with the 8th of May, that's been included in this agenda. The minutes for that, fairly well straightforward meeting. I guess the only thing to note out of that was the forthcoming Australian warning system upgrade, and that's just a government-led bringing together of all of the warning systems in Australia so that the public is aware of the various warning systems, and so that'll be rolled out over the course of the next 12 months. Any questions on that one? Somebody like to move the adoption then of this report be received? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor English. Councillor May.
Yeah, just quickly, Your Worship, two things that I'd like to pull out of the report. Cyclone Saturday, one of the biggest events that we can have in raising awareness of cyclones, so that looks to be extended in this coming year with additional space at Canelands there, so that's fantastic. And of course the review of our emergency liaison officers. So we're going to undertake a review in that space. We're going to make sure that they're included in our volunteer strategy through reviewing the initial review of the emergency liaison officers. We found that there's some work that needs to be done in that space, and also once we get the terms of reference updated, that volunteer strategy and the implementation of the volunteers within the council framework, we will then be able to have a look at what are the areas that we need an emergency liaison officer. So that's a work in progress.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. The draft minutes of the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting of the 12th of May. Are there questions around this one? So Would you like to move the reports? Adoption, Councillor May moves. Councillor Jones, second. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. This is the new revised Sustainability Advisory Committee. Councillors will remember that a little while ago we brought the terms of reference, the updated terms of reference, the change of name to the committee from the Sustainability and Environment Committee to the Sustainability Advisory Committee. And we went out to the community for expressions of interest to gather members of that committee. We had a great response. We had 5 applications, I believe, for the committee positions, and the committee chose to accept all of those nominations. We had some people that were staying on from previous committee positions. So we've got a great mix there of business, industry and community, so which is fantastic. Some of the highlights from the meeting was the discussions really around future topics and what the committee may like to have some presentations on. The pumped hydro project was one of them. The Capricornia Energy Hub was another. The circular economy that GW3 is working on, and the biofood project that the State Development is working on, and also potential presentation from Mackay Sugar in regards to sustainability and concerns and product development opportunities. So we only meet on, I think it's once a quarter, so we've got a couple of years of presentations mapped out there for the future, but all very relevant to the sustainability environment, that's for sure.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Agenda item 11, the correspondence and officers report. 11.1.1, sorry, is the Mayor's my monthly review. I'll take that as read. And are there any questions, Councillor Nairn?
So in relation to the meeting with Minister De Bruni about pumped hydro, Pioneer Burdekin project, I thought that we were all going to meet with him so that we could hear from him what the project is about.
That was just a meeting, a breakfast meeting that I had with him. There was no intent in my view that he was going to come to the council. It would be very, very good if he does, but there was no intent on that one. It was just a prior meeting. We had breakfast before he went up the valley.
So is there an opportunity to meet with him, because we've heard from Save Youngler?
Yes.
So it would be nice to hear.
We can put that on the agenda, yeah, if we can get him up there again.
Yes.
So, Councillor Bonham.
Yeah, because my memories of the situation was we were looking to finalise a position for council on the matter, and I remember you stating that we can get a meeting with the minister would be a good way to sort of start.
And that's certainly been the thrust, but he just wanted to meet and have a quick cup of coffee in the morning before he headed up to Youngler. So, and it was just virtually to say that they're going to open an office here, which the Premier did when she came.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Your Worship, I have 2 questions. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be further informed through your monthly report. On page 108, you've mentioned the visit that you had with Minister Hinchcliffe, where you met with him and Mackay Isaac Tourism regarding the potential for cruise ships to come to Mackay. You mentioned that the CEO of MIT mentioned infrastructure, product development and marketing needed to support such ventures like this for cruise ships to come. But I'm just wanting to know what more you can tell us about the type of infrastructure that he was talking about for the region, for our domestic travellers, that will contribute to our future growth.
Mainly around the port. The port's involvement is critical to all of this, to have the ship actually, or ships actually dock at the port and have ingress and egress to and from the port. As you know, the port is under asset control now. And so it's a difficult sort of thing to arrange. At Shute Harbour, or at the Early Beach cruise ship industry, they park out in the ocean and they come in via tenders. This indication is to try and bring the ships into the Mackay Harbour. It requires a fair bit of buy-in from the port and a little bit of infrastructure in the port. So that's what they'll work on. They seem to be fairly comfortable about that can happen. That's the basic infrastructure they're talking about.
I guess I was curious whether or not there was any infrastructure that would be our responsibility.
Don't think so.
Okay. The second question, Your Worship, and on the same page, you mentioned that you met with Q Shelter, and I thank you for explaining who they are. But your points to note for your meeting with Q Shelter didn't actually give me enough understanding of what the meeting was about and what the outcomes regarding planning responses to homelessness, which is certainly critical, as you know, in our region. So I just wondered if you could elaborate a little on that.
Certainly, Q Shelter is Queensland's peak body. It's government funded, and they brought a fair amount of their team, their senior management team, just to explain what they are. I guess the outcome of all of that was they are going to come back to the Mackay conference on around the 15th of August. So it was that was part of their whole meeting, was to explain who they are, what they do, because I don't think we knew what they did. So they advised about their framework about addressing homelessness, and their absolute aim is to have every Queenslander in a home. Their broad approach at this stage that they wanted to advise us was around the footprints that every LGA has in supporting homelessness through planning schemes, promoting the government support and activating government support, requiring a specialist homelessness service to be set up. So that's what their aim is. So they're coming back. They're coming back on the 15th of August to be part now of our regional homelessness conference. If you want to know a little bit more about Q Shelter, they have a very good website. It's called qshelter.asn.au, and it's probably worthwhile reading some of the stuff that they do, because they are a government-funded organisation. They're a peak body that's designed to deliver some of the solutions to our homelessness. And they're also recognising that they don't have all the solutions, but they're a peak body that wants to talk about it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Bella.
It's on Q Shelter as well. I'm wondering whether there was any discussion in that meeting, or whether there will be any. You could raise it as, we can talk about homelessness till the cows come home, but we all understand that that is not going to change in the short term. Even if we had an upswing in building 12 months, 2 years before there's any change, is there any acknowledgement of a need for accommodation for people that currently, a huge number of people that currently find themselves without any form of roof over their heads, any form of sanitation, and any form of hope?
Yeah, and I think there is, Councillor Bella. That's why they're pushing for this specialist homelessness service to be established, and that those services are obviously going to come out of the state. But that's what their interest in local government footprints and local government planning schemes is all about too. So they're trying to bring all that together and trying to recognise that there is a need right now. And when they come back, hopefully we'll be able to, if they're here for a couple of days, we'll be able to get them to brief council. That would be what the aim is. So, but they're quite serious, and they brought half a dozen of their senior management team here. It was a very good meeting. It was just an informative meeting, so next time they come, it would be to be part of the rescheduled August homelessness homelessness housing summit, and then brief council. And I think they're, being a peak body, I think they're the body that we need to work with, because that'll be an in to the state government. Anything further, CEO, that I missed? You're at that meeting.
Yeah, probably the only thing I'd add is probably within our Community Client Services Directorate, we're actively now working alongside Q Shelter, and as we always have been, a number of agencies throughout the region in terms of what assistance we currently give and what else is required. So those conversations are very active at the moment.
Okay. Anything further? Nothing further? So we'll remove my report be adopted. Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Jones.
No, Your Worship, I think it's very self-explanatory.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. CEO's monthly report and review. CEO.
Thanks, Matt. So just briefly, as you'll see from within some of the content, Council is certainly leading the way after being recognised with a national award for City Heart Fridays, as well as the Botanic Gardens reaching its 20th anniversary in the month of May, which is both fantastic for Council to be involved in, and know that most and all of the councillors have attended those events. So the only other thing I was just going to point out was we continue to face a very competitive employment market. So we're continually looking for those additional attraction strategies in terms of what we do, and that's seen us making several offers for our graduate program in some of our key engineering spaces to grow our own talent, as well as launching the applications for traineeships and apprenticeships out to the general public as well, which will gain some good traction and facilitate council to continue with an attraction strategy towards employment. And of course then the strategies in train for the actual retention strategies of our current employees, given the competitive market that we face and a higher than usual turnover rate due to that market itself. So.
Thank you, CEO. Questions for the CEO, Councillor Mann?
So just on page 115, talking about Mackay Region Recreational Fishing Strategy, there was a meeting held with Sunwater to provide input into proposed upgrades, and I just wondered what those proposed upgrades were to the dams.
CEO, Director, any information?
Yes, thank you, Worship. It was just a general meeting and they discussed, and I think they've raised it before, that they may potentially have access to some funding to make some improvements. There wasn't anything specific sort of locked in at the meeting, or sort of anything specific really discussed at this stage. Still initial discussions.
Okay. Councillor Jones?
I could just add further, Sunwater have offered $25 million across the state to be able to put some community infrastructure into the dams. What we'll get in this region, I'm not really sure yet. So.
Further questions? No further questions? I'd like to move the CEO's report be adopted. Councillor Jones moves, second by Councillor May. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of points that I wanted to elaborate on. Our staff are always looking for ways to improve what we do. And over the years, we've won a number of awards for many innovative ideas. In the report today with the CEO, I see that our parks electricians have developed a remote control to stop all traffic lights to make their workplace and the space of the community safer. So then it's hats off to them for coming up with that. And also I note that there's a new trial regarding the online dump vouchers over the next 12 months. Also in CEO's report, he announces the Lucky Catch and Snap competition. So I think it's a great opportunity to do a shout out for September 9 to October 8. So that will be something for our recreational fishing families to look forward to. And also a point to reiterate for the community that regular Sunday afternoon food trucks down at the river wharves starting up, and then last Sunday of each month, which makes the next one the 26th of June, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor May, speaking for.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. A couple of things I'd like to highlight out of the report in the workforce profile. It's great to see that the previous month vacancies of 130 has decreased to 102. So I think that's quite encouraging, and there's obviously a lot of work goes into that recruitment process, so the staff have done an excellent job there. We see by the graph that's just under that in the employee turnover, we're still quite high at rolling average of 20.03%. So it's something we can't afford to take our eye off. And then this month too, in regards to recruitment, 179 vacant positions, 38 were advertised, resulting in 203 applications. And 37 of those 38 positions were filled. So I think, like I said, there's a lot of work goes into that from a staff perspective, and it needs to be acknowledged. And they're continually, this is month on month. This is not, we're just advertising this month and we're not going to do any next month. This is month on month. And it's good to see the key workforce initiatives of the Career Pathways program being initiated in May. And this includes the graduate and apprenticeship and trainee program, which our CEO spoke about. We also had 370 employees participate in our flu vaccination program. So that in itself is a great thing to be able to provide for our workforce, Your Worship. The other thing I'd like to highlight is our continual local investment in our purchasing arrangements. So from a council that spends millions and millions of dollars, we see in May $20 million, which is about 79% of our council spend being spent locally. So, council, as much as we want to be getting value for money. It's great to see we're getting value for money in here with our local businesses. So I think it needs to be applauded.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Bella, speaking for.
Just regarding the economic snapshot, it doesn't directly apply to our region, but it gives us an indication. We have the slaughterhouse here at Borthwick's. For a long time they've struggled with workers, and that is actually one of the reasons that cattle prices have taken such a drastic fall and are impacting quite a large number of people in our region. But just to give you an idea of that, JBS at their Dinmore plant down near Brisbane conducted an open day just recently, had 227 attendees to the open day. 3 people applied to start work the next day, one of which failed the drug test and 2 that did not last a day. So out of 227, a great deal of work. So in actual fact, I think that our recruitment process is doing quite well, but it's also just a bit of a wake up to the fact that there are certain businesses and operations in our region that are struggling and will have impact on our industries.
Councillor Bella. Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. Just in relation to the vacancies, 37 positions filled, 203 applicants. And I say to the CEO, I'd like to, for those people that have applied and missed out, not to give up, to continue, if they really want a job work for council, continue to reapply. And I've had a phone call from a couple saying, it took so long to get an answer and I don't know where I sit with it. But to me, I think it's just a matter of maybe in that reply to those that miss out to remind them that, to continue to reapply, because there'll certainly be a position, if they continue to apply, there'll be a position for them here somewhere. So,
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Thank you. Any other speakers? No other speakers will put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on now to 11.1. The next 3 items, the next 3 agenda items for the Mackay Regional Housing Company. The subject of this transfer to the Mackay Regional Housing Company has been going on for a very long time, 7 years probably. And it's been complicated over those years. We've had trouble getting approvals and agreements from the state. However, I think we are now in a situation where we're positive for the first time in a very long time. So all of these documents were sent out on the 3rd of June. We asked for comment at that stage and we had no comments coming back. So happy to take questions on it. But in the 4 weeks, there's been no sort of request for any further comment on any of these 3 items. So we would be hopeful now that this will be a chance for us to move forward for the first time in a long time. Are there questions? Councillor Seymour.
Yeah, well, I asked a question. I know Blue Chip's a big, like Australia, a big company. How much, like they getting up their preferred tenderers, for their jobs, how much disadvantage are the local builders going up against a national company? Like, do they get an even stand? Because, there's a lot of places here that could do the tender, but they'd be bringing in companies from down south to do the big projects and material.
CEO, or can you answer that, Councillor?
Yes, certainly can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So part of the agreement with Blue Chip Housing Company is that there is a service agreement and there is a development agreement. And part of that development agreement highlights actually the local prioritisation, where it's actually written in the agreement that there must be a local prioritisation of people coming here first, and then if they can't fulfil what's required, look elsewhere. Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions? Any further questions? Well, we've got to break these down into 3, I think. Yes, okay. So we'll have to take them one by one. 11.1.3, the Mackay Regional Housing Company Limited Constitution and Shareholder Agreement Changes. We're required to actually endorse those agreement changes. Any questions about this particular item? So we'd like to move. Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Mayor. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So there is an enormous amount of work that's gone into the development of the attached constitution and shareholder agreements. when the company started back in 2009. Obviously, it's a very different scenario now to where we are now, and to really make sure that we fulfil the objectives of the housing company. This change is necessary to be able to partner with a larger tier 1 housing provider, while still safeguarding that local Mackay region, I suppose, ownership of the properties, as well as how decisions are made within the boardroom. So councillors would have had a chance to read the constitutions and the shareholder agreement, and it actually points out in there that the percentages of votes that are required to make large decisions, and particularly decisions concerning assets. So there is always that local control in place, unless, of course, the proposition is good and the local will support whatever that opportunity is that when they come available. So, but this is really setting out the new constitution and the new shareholder agreement.
Thank you. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.1.4. That's the transfer of council properties for housing purposes. Any particular questions on this? Somebody like to move the adoption of this report? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So these properties that are mentioned in this report are the council-owned properties. There is 90 properties in total. They range from units in around the region, not just the Mackay area, but around the region. You can see from the report there, we've got some in Finchatten, we've got some in Serena, we've got some out at Walkerston, Marion, Morani, and it's really, this is delegating the authority for the CEO, once those transfer documents come from the state, that we will be able to execute them under the CEO's delegation to enable the transfer of those properties to the Mackay Regional Housing Company.
Yeah. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. 11.1.5, the transfer of council properties for housing purposes, the Queensland Housing Investment Growth Initiative. Questions on this particular one? Somebody like to move? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor May.
Look, this is an opportunity that has come about from, I suppose, a considerable amount of work from a partnership between Blue Chip Housing and the Mackay Regional Housing Company and Council to put in an expression of interest into the Quick Start program. We have been successful with that, and these properties have been the ones that have been identified as, development ready, if you like, opportunities. So this is about finalising that transfer of the land in this case. There's no houses on these properties, but the land in this case to Mackay Regional Housing Company to enable us to move forward in that Quick Start funding agreement that we will be entering into with the state government. So this is a good opportunity. This is about increasing the number of units available for Mackay region residents. All of this has been, I have to say this before I sit down for the last time, all of this has been a tremendous undertaking. You see from the original report, 2009, to this day, this has been the goal of this housing company to get that stock transferred to and then to be able to increase the number of properties, rental properties that we have available for our Mackay region community. So Councillor Mann and myself have been part of the board. I've been there since 2010. I think Councillor Mann's been there 7 years or 6 years as well. So we've been working hard, and the rest of the board has been working really hard in getting to this stage where we're now able to bring this forward to fruition. And I must say, I have to do a big shout out to our Executive Officer, David McKendry, because him and his team have worked tirelessly. You would not believe the amount of work that they have done in getting this all organised to be here this day, from where we were 2009 to now. So a big shout out to David and his team. It's been a great, I suppose, process to be able to work through, and it's really good to see that we're nearly at the end of it. From a state government perspective, we're just I'm saying a couple of months away of getting the final documents, because there's always a bit of a hold up with the state government, but it's in the making, and now we're just delegating those authorities to the CEO to be able to carry that out. We don't have to come back to council.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. This is a long-awaited day for this council and the Mackay Regional Housing Company. Our reps, as the Deputy Mayor has just said, have been Councillor May and Councillor Mann on this for quite some time now. So congratulations, councillors. It's been a long, hard, arduous journey, but you've done a great job. And can I add my congratulations too, through the CEO, to EXO. Yes, it's been a big, torturous road, but we're almost there, EXO. So thanks very much, councillors. Let's move on. I did, yes. Yes. 11.1.6, the operational plan for 2022-23, the third quarter report. CEO, is there anything further?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick overcaps. We've got 32 actions on track or exceeded for the third quarter, which does provide us the information that the corporate plan is on track, and we can notice the ones that are slightly behind have got the commentary in there around what that scope actually is that ultimately we'll talk about in the next report as well. But I just wanted to commend the congratulations to the staff for the current status of play in terms of the actions that are on track or exceeding.
Thank you very much, CEO. I've got your footstool down here, Councillor.
It's here.
Oh, somebody's put one in there for me, I don't know why.
I don't have one, it's missing.
Okay, questions for the CEO? No questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption of the third quarter report, the ops plan? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor May. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. Good report, as the CEO mentioned, largely positive quarter, and it looks like the objectives of the current plan are on track to be achieved as planned.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.1.7, the ops plan for 2023-24. The council needs to adopt this ops plan in accordance with the local government regulation as part of the Act. CEO, is there anything further?
I did just want to highlight, so this particular plan, we commenced this planning in January of this year with extensive engagement. We've crossed not just the executive leadership team, but also our senior leadership team as well, which resulted, as you know, from an update of our organisational strategy for 23-28, which really helps inform the future in mind of the organisation and what that means. But it also means, from an operational point of view, that when we talk about what metrics of success are, that they are not too granular, specific, that they become unachievable, that they allow us flexibility to move and evolve with the times as we continue on over the next period of time. So all in all, I'm looking forward to the adoption and achieving the milestones as we continue.
Thank you very much. No questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption then of this plan? Councillor Englert moves, Councillor May seconds. Councillor Englert.
Unless Councillor May has anything to say, I think the CEO summarised it well.
Yes, Councillor May.
Thank you very much. Look, I think it's the report in its format is great. It's user friendly. Let's put it that way. User friendly as far as monitoring and reviewing goes. I think it clearly outlines our goals over the next 12 months. And I think the CEO might have underplayed it a bit, but there is a lot of work again that goes into developing the operational plan, and there has been a number of staff that play key roles in that, but there's a lot of touches from a lot of staff to be able to present this here today. So this is obviously part of our legislative requirements to adopt the operational plan, and the funding of that plan will fall out of this afternoon's budget meeting.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. And of course, now that we've adopted it, it'll be published on our website, and it's accessible now by the community. Right. 11.2 are development services that we're considering right now. 11.2.1 is the Serena Beach Local Coastal Plan. Now, you councillors, the director has sent out 2 additional notifications around this one. Has everybody got those and understand those two notifications? Director, is there anything more that you need to say on those notifications?
No, it was just to clarify that while the need for the formalised access or the recommendation that one be installed is highlighted throughout the document, it has been missed from that last table. So when the final plan is published, that will be explicit. There will be that sentence added back into the table that explicitly states that formalised access is to be
Okay, thank you.
installed.
Well, we have one public address before we, Councillor Bell, do you have a question? Councillor Bell, do you have a question?
No, procedurally, owing to the fact that there is an element in this plan that differs quite markedly to what was presented to us in briefing. I believe it does require further explanation and exploration. I also believe that when there's significant changes to what is presented to us, it should be presented in a similar forum. And thus, I would like to move that this be laid on the table until that exploration can be undertaken.
It's a procedural motion to lay it on the table until we have further explanation around the changes as outlined by the Director. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. So 7-3. Thank you. So that'll lay on the table. Thompson, you'll have to come back. Okay. All right, so the vegetation vandalism at 11.2.2. An extremely significant case in McCarthy Street, Hay Point. CEO, is there anything further you want to add to this one, Director?
Thank you, Worship. Just to say that Council unfortunately has seen this one before. We have had repeated instances of vegetation vandalism in this particular location. We've presented this report following Council's review and a revision of the vegetation vandalism policy, which gives us some additional options, I guess, in addressing this particular instance, which we are recommending be utilised by way of rebadging the current billboard sign and installing a second one as well to hopefully act as a deterrent to stop these continued instances of vegetation vandalism.
Questions? The report's fairly well explanatory. So the officer's recommendations in the 5 dot points that are contained in the meeting agenda. Would somebody like to move the officer's recommendation? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor May seconds. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. I appreciate that we're taking this to another level of consequences. I guess the arrogance of some individuals in our community that continue to destroy community assets really unsettles me. With our policy, it states that we have other ways and means to be able to discourage this unacceptable behaviour. So maybe, Worship, next time we may have to think about installing shipping containers to block views. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor May speaking.
Thank you very much, Worship. It is very disheartening when you read the report and you see that this is almost an annual event. Look, I just want to say, you know, the officers are doing the very best job that they can. They do a thorough job when it comes to investigating these matters, and they bring before us the result of those investigations and the actions that can be taken under the policy. But I think what needs to happen here, Your Worship, is there needs to be a big shout out to the community to take some ownership of this. It is through the word of mouth that we can change the concept, we can change the attitudes of people. So I think it's up to this council to formally promote that good environment. Looking after your natural resources is something that we need to do, as well as taking the action that's outlined in this report.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, August Services under 11.3 for the Strategic Financial Report for May 2023. As outlined in your agenda, councillors. CEO or Director, is there anything further? Director, you'd like to...
Thank you, Worship. So the strategic financial report for May notes that the operating revenue and expenses are both above the year-to-date budget at present. Additional revenue has been received primarily due to additional ticket sales through the MEC and higher than anticipated interest revenue, as we've been able to secure some really good rates from the QTC and other areas lately. You can see this further in the document where our portfolio return for May was actually 4.35%, which is exceptional at the moment. The unfavourable variance we've seen in our operating expenses has largely been driven by higher than expected employee costs. And I did just want to take a moment to note that this is against the revised budget that was adopted in the March budget review. We are still significantly under the original budget that was set at the beginning of the year when it comes to employee costs. We've been taking those savings at each budget review period to fund the increases we've seen in things like materials and services and depreciation, and have been trying to balance that as carefully and thoughtfully as we can for the community throughout the year. Capital expenditure is tracking well to the revised budget, with 94 million spent as at the end of May, and other indicators are also tracking really well. Our rates arrears is only 3% at the moment, which is less than half the average rate arrears of similar councils. And we will continue to see this fall as the due date for pension and concessions isn't until the end of this current month. We continue to retain appropriate cash balances and minimal debt. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Director. Questions for the Director? No questions. Okay. Somebody like to move the Director's report be adopted? Councillor England, seconded by Councillor May. Councillor England.
I hadn't expected to speak to this one, but I'll just reflect that the surplus is looking like 100,000 to 800,000 at the moment, so that's good to see. But I expect to see it change again at some point, so we'll see how we go.
Thanks, Councillor England. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. We have three leases to deal with right now at 11.3.2. The new lease to work connections limited at Shop 11 Bone. Has anybody got any questions around this? No questions. So we'd like to move that the officer's recommendation be adopted. Councillor Green, Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Green.
Thank you. This report is to approve a new lease to Work Connection Limited, which is located at Shop 11 of the Dome Shopping Centre for a period of 1 year plus a 1-year option term. So Work Connection are also known as Tailored Lifestyle Connections, and they are a small not-for-profit organisation who support people with disabilities to achieve their goals and live a meaningful life. They now provide services under Disability Employment and NDIS, and they're registered to provide services in Queensland. So providing this lease to work connection is advantageous to our community as it continues to provide disability services to their clients, but it also continues to provide an income to councils. So I support the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously.
Mr Mayor, I just need to declare a conflict of interest with the Bendigo Adelaide Bank lease as Chairman of the Board of the Serena Community Bank, Bendigo Bank, as the franchisor. We need to.
Okay. We'll accept that. Number 3.3 is a new lease to the Bendigo and Adelaide Bank Limited, Shop 8 in the Dome. Any questions? No questions. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor Green.
Thank you. This one's quite straightforward. This report is to approve a new lease to Bendigo and Adelaide Bank Limited for Shop 8 in the Dome Shopping Centre for a period of 2 years. Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, they've been valuable tenants for more than 17 years in the Dome, and they are the sole branch of Bendigo Bank in Mackay, giving customers that valuable face-to-face experience that they do appreciate. So approving this lease provides continuity of these banking services to our community, as also providing that income to council as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, Councillor May back in. Thanks, Councillor May. 11.3.4 is the Mackay Netball Association adjusting their lease area. I think this is fairly well straightforward. Any questions? No questions. Somebody like to move? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor Jones.
So as you said, Your Worship, it's fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking
I'd
forward.
like to speak to this because there is a little bit to it. So in that, this report is to approve a new 10-year lease for Mackay Netball Association. It incorporates the existing lease agreements of Lease J, which includes netball courts, the clubhouse and the canteen, and as well as Lease Q, which was transferred to MNA back in 2017 by PCYC when they no longer required that lease. The whole premises were fenced for safety reasons once those two were incorporated under a temporary licence agreement, which will terminate upon the approval and signing of this lease today. So MNA have also requested the use of the area west of the courts to be included because they do use this area when there's large carnivals, etc. So given council determined this land may be required for future lease, a permit to occupy the area will be granted to Mackay Netball Association for non-exclusive use until such a time that council requires this land back. The Mackay Netball Association has a very long and successful history with the Mackay community, particularly at the Casey Avenue courts, and we can see that in the superb infrastructure that is now in place to create an exceptional netball precinct for our community. So approving this new lease with the adjusted lease area is a really great outcome for our community, as well as reducing the risk of incidences and increases the safety for the patrons in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. 11.3.5, the report to change Sictor Road and Peary Street, Serena. Once again, it's fairly well straightforward. There was public consultation for 4 weeks on this one and nothing was received. Are there questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Jones moves. Councillor May seconds. Councillor Jones.
Your Worship, it's like you say, fairly self-explanatory, and with all the consultation that's occurred and there's been no feedback, when you look at the map, it's fairly obvious what needs to happen. So, yeah, happy to support.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jones, speaker against. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. So there's no petitions, there's no tenders, there's no notified motions, nobody is registered for public participation. Late business now. Is there any councillor want to raise an area of late business? No late business. Confidential reports, we've got 4 confidential reports to receive today. Is there any reason to move into? Nothing? Okay, if we don't want to go into a closed session, we'll deal with these confidential reports now. 17.1, the approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program from May of 2023. Somebody like to move? Councillor Hassan moves, Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Did you vote, Councillor Bonaventura?
No, Your Worship, I do vote in favour.
Okay, thank you. That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program Advisory Committee of the 5th of June. Councillor May moves, Councillor Aglett seconds. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried, thank you. The approved concessions under the Facilitating Development of the Mackay Region Policy for April 2023. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried, thank you. And the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development of the Mackay Region Policy for May 2023. Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Aglett seconds. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. Declare the meeting closed.